every 24 hours they're doubling in size. So that was great as a starting point for our business. That was our first product.
You can just pull them off and just eat them.
Harvest them, put them in the pan, some sourdough, some mushroom cashew cheese, some oyster mushroom, some olive oil, some garlic, salt, stuff.
Willkommen, bienvenue.
Oui.
We tried this podcast 8 months ago with Julian from Lifecykel, talking all things mushrooms. Well, now 9 months down, in this picturesque spot, the temple. Last time it was in the back of my van. And we're going to talk all things Lifecykel, mushrooms, shaggy mushrooms, reishi mushrooms, all the mushrooms. And when we first spoke...
I thought you said shagging mushrooms.
Shagging mushrooms. Isn't that cordyceps?
The shagger mushroom, that is cordyceps. Good.
If you've seen Lifecykel. Not Lifecykel, what was that? Game Changers. So Julian, tell us, when we spoke, Julian told me he used to work for a football team. And got my attention straight away because I love soccer. He was it a physio?
Physio, yeah.
Physio for Wolves.
The Wolverhampton Wolves Wanderers.
Who are top 6 at the minute in EPL. And he came back to Australia and now he's got involved with mushrooms and functional foods. How did that happen? How did you get from where you were in physio in the EPL in, let's call it, the glamorous life to another glamorous life in mushrooms in Byron Bay?
Yeah, did not expect him to be in Byron Bay or for it to be necessarily more glamorous, but English Premier League, physio, sport, young kid growing up in Australia, it's all about sport, so I guess just wanting to have a career in elite sport and become head of medical for an NBA team or for an English Premier League team, that was my dream job, and very lucky.
I always thought you were English.
Yeah.
You know, only when you speak now, my mind went Perth. You told me it was Perth.
Yeah, Perth's a bit softer than the harsh Aussie on the east coast.
Fair income.
And a Queenslander voice. So just that was my dream job, to go and work in elite sport, hang out with athletes, work with athletes, try and win a championship in something, and then enjoyed that for a couple of seasons, but just felt I wanted to be more free, I guess, and I think business allows you to be more free with your own time, and as well as that allows you to hopefully in some form make a bit more difference if you wish to, because I think business is really a form of activism, because you can create solutions to things. And so that solution was, okay, how do we feed the future sustainably, ethically, going forward? And so mushrooms, very low inputs required in terms of no chemicals, very low water, very low land, no need for deforestation, no pesticides, tick, no antibiotics, organic, delicious, and no one was really doing that at scale in Australia, and so that made sense to start growing mushrooms for restaurants, which we did in Perth. And then on the back of that, got a lot of media attention.
Was that when it started? You started it in Perth?
Started in Perth, yeah, in Fremantle, which is like a port city.
Oh no, I loved it.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a very English city with all the yachts and the.
Yeah.
I went to that big brewery.
Yeah, Little Creatures.
That's the one.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great little zone there, Fremantle, and very forthcoming to those kind of innovative ideas, a bit like Byron and other parts of the world. So started there, and then I think naturally came to Byron. We had a business partner here, great lifestyle here, a lot of businesses doing great things, so very inspiring, a lot of a great collaborative environment, and so came here and then really have merged to become, or formed to become, a biotechnology company, which is fusing biology and technology, which typically means making things that are artificial, such as fertilizers, pharmaceuticals. These things, everything we create comes from nature in some form, and so we sort of, I guess, we're trying to keep it more natural than synthetic or synthesized nature. So by making our extracts, for example, we're not trying to contaminate or play around with them too much. Probably contaminate is not the right word, but play around with them too much in the sense of making them more artificial. So just growing them in natural environments, extracting them as natural as possible, trying to leave them as alone as much as possible, and coming out with a pure organic product in that sense. And I think that's just also what the market wants. So
How did you get from Physio in England
Yeah.
to back to Perth? To where did the mushroom? Were you thinking mushrooms in England? Was that a discussion point?
I built an app when I was in England for elite, because I was working with elite performers. So I was like, okay, well, how to, and the training regimes that we were doing with these elite athletes, especially in England, as you know, everyone worships the English Premier League player. They're gods. They're bigger than gods.
Me too, and I'm fucking 12,000 miles away.
So
and I'm 42. And
everyone's like, what are these guys doing for training?
Yeah.
How do they live? How do they train? What do they do? And so I built an app called Elite Gym Trainer Pro. So I guess I was interested in business always, and scaling to more than just like a handful of people, and how do you impact more people, and that didn't work out. Wasn't that interested in that. Probably was the biggest point. And I came back and left, and then I came home, was a health consultant for a big company, and while I was doing that, again, I just felt restrained working in a big company where your ideas are boxed in. You've got to sort of toe the line a little bit, and so probably didn't really suit my personality. Probably yours as well wouldn't suit that personality.
Can't box a pigeon.
Exactly.
Well, you can box a pigeon, but you can't box. We can fix that one later.
Yeah, and I think everyone has that naturally. So, for that reason, I just started looking and doing a lot of reading around. This is when entrepreneurship became fashionable.
Can you spell that word?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I can't fucking spell it.
You can't? No, you can definitely spell it, I
But
think.
can you spell it?
E-N-T, I need to write it down. E-N-T.
Yeah, me too.
R-E-U-I. Yeah, I don't know.
People say to me, you're an entrepreneur. I thought, well, I can't even fucking spell that. It's so long.
It's a buzzy and wanky
Curious.
word all in one.
I'd say curious.
Yeah.
It's a nice, simpler one.
Everyone's an entrepreneur in their own right. They actually genuinely are. Everyone's got that creative side.
I think if you really question what you've done, you've come into something from, but you've had education in like the human anatomy or whatever it is, and you've taken it now to like an internal space.
Yeah.
Where you have mushrooms.
Which goes back around to, how does it affect the physiology of the body, which is interesting. And now we're working with UFC fighters, pro surfers, elite soccer players. So I know what they want and how they require things to be in their daily life. So it definitely is helpful in some ways, but the university was not a waste of time.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to learn, teaches you to question things, which is very important. And in my case, read research. So these research papers that scientists do and universities do and PhD scholars write about this mushroom does this and it can do that, blah blah blah. That just sits in the vault. Once it's published, no one reads it. But if you read it, there's gold there in the sense of, oh, that's interesting. But then how do you be the conduit between that being in scientific language and some crazy scripture? How do you correlate or relate that to getting a product into a cafe that actually makes a tangible difference as in interesting to the consumer?
It's interesting you say that. Have you read that book called The Gut?
No.
It's written by a German doctor.
Yeah.
But it talks about shitting, but in a very funny term.
Yeah.
And you just said something that really reminded me that she said, because she had suffered from psoriasis as a skin condition, and doctors were always given a topical application, steroid creams, whatever. It would never fix it. It would mask it, and it would come back again. When she became a doctor, she went and got into the vault of all these studies. And then she found that dairy and wheat and gluten and all those things in the 60s was discovered to have these things that happened in the skin. When you eat this stuff, for some people, dairy can give you this, and it can give you psoriasis, and all these sort of dermatology, whatever it is. So she took that information, and then, because she couldn't cure herself from this thing, so she stopped dairy, and she stopped gluten, and all her skin conditions went. So then she wrote a book that's called The Gut. So it's a very funny story about shitting, but it starts here, this part. And then I don't know if anyone's ever got a shit and stool. Where many people I know now get a little shit and stool because you lean forward when the shit's in.
Good for you.
She talks. I think they've all came from people who've heard her story. She's quite a good-looking young German doctor that talks about her experiences, but with humour. But she's right. It's like there's a lot of that stuff, a lot of those findings and knowledge bombs put away because no one else has funded it from this point moving forward. What are you going to do with it? Interesting topic. Coronavirus was discovered in the 60s. 12 strains of coronavirus locked away, put away because back in the 60s all governments wanted to focus on nuclear bombs. That's what all the science went to nuclear. So I heard this, the guy who's like the head of Australian doctors, he goes, we know there's 12 strains of
It's existed
COVID.
for a long time.
Yep. Since the 60s we discovered it,
Wow.
but did nothing with it.
So it's been around for a long time. People have had it probably
Totally aware of it.
for
Totally aware of it.
decades.
12 strains of COVID, of coronavirus. And we've got 6 in Australia currently, now 7. And but they knew all this in the 60s, discovered it. A bit like what you've discovered with your mushrooms.
Yeah, it's been around for a long
You've
time.
got to do something with this information.
Mushrooms have been around for many years. We didn't come out with these things that we've done and patented as new. We've added layers to great work that previous people have done for decades, centuries in traditional Chinese medicine and indigenous cultures, and so that's just all we're sort of, I guess, working with that knowledge as well and adding to it with new technology that we have. But yeah, it's a fascinating space, and it's a fascinating time with managing entrepreneurship and business and things with COVID and everything else that's going on in the world.
Well, it's a relevant time now, because I was talking to a mate of mine in the UK and he goes, mate, anything probiotic is going to sell. He goes, the Brits are going crazy for all this sort of stuff. So like, whether you call it functional foods, or is it getting back to basics? Is it getting back to eating real food with a real purpose to give yourself what you need to sustain a life? Because I think that there's that time with the hamburgers and the fucking cheeseburgers and the KFCs and all that sort of buckets of shit that people are eating. I think there's many people that have went through that. I did. I went through that, came out of it and thought I wouldn't touch that sort of stuff anymore because I got nothing from it. So people look to functional foods to boost their immunity. There was a time when I used to say to my wife, I said, can't we just eat something that fucking tastes nice? It's like, there was the whole spiel. You know, you go to a restaurant and it says like baked in fucking Bolivian fucking bum juice, and then you spoke to some friends and they say, oh no, this is from the local farm, it's all organic and it's this and it's that and it's this. My mind would always say, can't we just eat it because it's nice? And I think that time is coming, because I think that functional part of nutrition, the awareness of a certain population is growing quite dramatically, and social media is helping that. So all those things that we used to label foods to be are becoming just an experience of food. So here is your dinner, but it does contain and it's part of an eating process.
Exactly, because people don't want to necessarily change their habit too much. So with the coffee, for example, like we've had coffee indoctrinated into our system for a long time, or we've had muesli indoctrinated into our system for a long time, and for a little while we went there where both of those things became sugary and nonsense. Look at Starbucks as an example of where coffee got to, versus other cafes in Melbourne or around Australia or in other parts of the world where they've actually turned them into functional beverages by adding some turmeric or some MCT oil into the coffee. And with what you've done with your products, it's like, okay, well, they're going to consume it anyways. Let's put the healthy form of natural medicine, if you like, if that's what you want to call it, into the food. You're not changing the habit. They're going to eat that muesli anyways. You're just giving them that option, and you're giving them that convenience. And that's what's on trend, and that's what's popular, and that's what influencers want to talk about anyways, because people just want to feel good. And if you can help them feel good and not change their habits, and it tastes good, then that's like the trifecta. Yeah,
it's a bit like we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just putting a new spoke in it. Yeah, and that spoke is 2020, or whenever you started. It's a relevant spoke of today's modern world. It's just, I just really believe things are in cycles. It's a bit like fashion. When you watch fashion, like the 80s, people are walking around with 80s and early 90s gear on again now, like it's cool.
You go down Johnson Street, you think you're in the 80s at times, which is great.
Which I don't mind the really high fucking denim shorts. I'm a big fan of them. And the tight bikinis. Yeah. But I think the same goes for food and how we consume stuff. It's like we're becoming like pupils of our parents, but in today's modern world. Yeah. Where's next for Lifecykel? Where beyond the function of mushrooms that people might see in the cafes and the shops, what's the next part? Yeah. Or where you're going to go?
Yeah. Well, we have a few different divisions of Lifecykel, and so some of those are in animal immunity. So we work with animals in terms of replacing the need for antibiotics. So we have a company and a research dedicated to that. So that's one area that I guess if you're on Instagram or if you're on social media you wouldn't be aware of, but antibiotics is a huge issue for animals and for humans, because if you're consuming those eggs or that honey, then you're consuming those antibiotics in small amounts as well. So
would that be the same for like when people are buying, let's say, let's not talk about again. Let's go like free range.
Mm.
Are they still getting pumped with it?
They'll get if they get. It's sort of if you.
How do you know as a consumer?
You don't.
You don't know.
That's where the whole thing is going. Is towards. I think, we want transparency.
Yeah.
We want to know how it was grown, where it was grown,
Yeah.
what was put into it. So we know with like cows or with turmerics and things, they can carry a lot of heavy metals, and so heavy metal testing will become important in the future. So I think the companies and the brands that can be more transparent will be able to build a community around that loyalty, around that transparency. So that's definitely something that you're seeing out of parts of like West Coast of the USA and other parts of Europe. So, and I think in Australia we demand that as well. And we've got such a pure environment that we can demand that. And you see that in China because China doesn't trust Chinese grown food, and the middle class China will import, and certain parts of the Arab Emirates and things because they don't have the environment to either grow the food or have clean produce, and so that's becoming actually a first world issue is accessing food that's not toxic and water that's not toxic, which is pretty crazy. It's really
what we take for granted.
It's a side effect of polluting our environment. So the future for us is animal immunity is one area, building Lifecykel into a more of a global brand into the USA as well. So we're having great traction there at the moment. Working with a lot of athletes because they're getting performance benefits in UFC and other sports in America. Bringing out a range of products. I'm not sure what else I can bring out, but there's some exciting things happening
You're going to
in
tell
town
me?
soon. I can tell you.
Hush, hush.
Later. Hush, hush, hush. Keep it hush. But other than that, it's just it's going really well. The timing of the market is good, which is important, and the fact that I think everyone's ready for mushrooms. Everyone's ready for functional foods. Everyone's ready for a purity story where they can trace back to where was it grown, how was it grown, who grew it, kind of thing.
I've spoke to a few mates of mine because for me, I'm always on the fence: mushroom, no mushroom, mushroom, no mushroom. Because I am that kind of character.
Yeah, I think you're not easily won over, which is good. You're a fair man.
And there's a mate of mine, Riley, who's quite an astute business person, and he runs like an online education company.
Yep.
But he swears by lion's mane.
Yep.
He takes your fucking lion's mane drops all the time. He says it just helps me focus. He says it gives me mental clarity. And he says, mate, I'm just totally a fucking idiot. Jared, my neighbour, the ex rugby guy, he's a big fan. He's on your quadricep and reishi.
Yeah.
Big believer in the reishi because it helps him sleep.
Yeah.
Deep sleeps.
Yeah.
So since I've met you and I hear people talking about it, and these are real stories from real people who have got nothing to tell than their real experiences, and they're not easily won over people. These are people that are actually
they've got no incentive.
No.
I know that I've met some of those guys, and they're they're just normal people, and that's very supportive to our team. When we feedback to the team, that's what we believe in. Actually, you can save on marketing by producing a good product.
But Jared, he was an ex-Waratah player.
Yeah.
You should get him to get you into fucking all the Waratahs. Those big fellas.
Yeah.
Running around getting beaten up all the time.
Yeah, especially because they're having those head clashes as well.
Christ,
it's a very physical sport, so you're getting concussed every now and then. You're getting head trauma.
You know Dave Pow Tabane?
Yeah.
Is he growing your mushrooms? Is that your mushroom box?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to get that into schools and let kids be part of that whole process. I've been watching his mushrooms growing on Instagram. But I wonder if that's the same ones.
Yeah. So I think that's what we started with, was growing food, getting people growing food connected to nature, because there's definitely a disconnect there with humans and seeing food grow, seeing where it came from, and human nature, human being, it's part of us, and so I think we forget that. We forget, especially when we're in big cities, surrounded by concrete, surrounded by apartment blocks, everything's artificial, everything's technology based. There's definitely a huge element of mental health there. In terms of people just feel, in Japan they call it forest bathing, and there's science to show that your cells will vibrate at a more harmonious level when you're in nature. And so, what's the smallest thing we can do to help people reconnect? Grow some mushrooms on your kitchen bench, especially with children, especially with your partner. It's amusing, it's fun, and they grow super quickly. So just like you've been engaged with watching Dave's grow, every 24 hours they're doubling in size. So that was great. as a starting point for our business. That was our
And
first product.
you can just pull them off and just eat them.
Harvest them, put them in the pan, some sourdough, some mushroom cashew cheese, some oyster mushrooms, some olive oil, some garlic, salt. It's done. The wife will be happy.
And they just keep growing.
You get 3 crops. We've had some people get up to 7, 8 crops. So it's fun. Yeah, it's good experience to do.
Yeah. How many types of mushrooms is there? So I know that reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey's tail, and
we've got you're missing about 2.95 million.
Oh fuck! So there's
there's a few there. So in terms of, it's a kingdom.
Yeah.
So they outnumber plants 8 to 1. So every plant is 8 varieties of mushrooms.
Fuck.
Yeah. And so going back into the history books of evolution, they believed to be the first thing that sort of impregnated the soil, that created soil, and then from that healthy soil, which healthy soil contains 30% of mycelium, which is the roots of mushrooms, it creates a fertile environment from which plants can grow. And so if we went into this little area here, or if we went further back, we see some rotting logs. The mushrooms, the fungi, the white web mycelium would be sort of chewing up and consuming that bark, breaking it down, from which mushrooms will grow, from which that bark and that rotting log will then decompose into the soil. From that soil, more trees will grow. And so that's the life cycle. And so the life cycle of this environment very much needs mushrooms and mycelium, and it's a part of that cycle. And so that's what humans need to, I guess, remember and be humbled by, is that we are part of that, but so are mushrooms, and they play an important role, so does everything. So yeah, getting back to, as we go forward with technology, with artificial intelligence, with all of those things, is how do we balance that with staying in tune and harmonious and connected to nature, because actually that will, one, make us feel much happier, we'll be healthier for that reason, and it's a part of how we can coexist on this planet, because at the moment it seems like there's that imbalance, and maybe coronavirus and COVID is a symptom of that and a sign of that. And what we've seen, once we slow down and chill out and stop getting on the planes and stop doing all of these things, the smoke in China clears up, the factories stop working, so that everything clears up. So measuring GDP as our success, in terms of is the economy growing or not growing, and that's our success as a race, is very insular and very narrow-minded, and we're being ran by the market, which is not in conjunction with caring about our needs as what we need individually, health-wise, as a human. So that's interesting, and so mushrooms play a role in that.
That's an interesting topic you said there, because I resonate with that part of it. These wankers fucking just banging their mouth about X% growth and blah blah blah.
Well, maybe we're some of those wankers as well. But we've got to balance that.
They're the ones pulling the strings that we all have to. We're the ones that. They're the ones feeding the information to the news that then spouts this garbage to the people, and then you hear conversation. Oh, recession's coming. Oh, this is coming. Oh, what does it fucking matter?
Yeah.
You know what you're gonna do? We're quite humane. We can deal with it. We can change.
Yeah.
I had this great topic. I had this on another podcast. This lady from, I think it was OVO Organics, Cindy Brown. We're talking about fight and flight, and rest and digest.
Yeah.
And she was saying, when an antelope is in the Serengeti, whatever the fuck it is, and it's eating away at stuff, it's calm. When it smells danger, it runs for its fucking life, chased by a lion.
Yeah.
If it escapes, it gets to a safe spot, and then goes back to foraging again. He goes, now we as humans don't do that. We stay in fight or flight mode continually. And I thought, fuck, I get that. But you would never be chased by a bear and then eventually stop and go back to making a cup of tea again. That wouldn't happen. We wouldn't do that. We'd be thinking about the fucking bear, the tree, how'd that happen? Oh my God, I've got to get this. The turmoil.
Well, that's what happens when you put up the news. If you put up the newspaper, news, even social media these days, depending on what you're following, it's like getting chased by a lion. That's the kind of trigger that you're getting. That cortisol is getting triggered. Terrorism, GDP, economic crisis, virus, vaccine, whatever it is, the topic is pretty fear-inducing in our bodies.
It's all fear.
Not doing us anything.
Why do you think it's always fear? Why is it us? Why does no one sell the happy news? Somebody says it
some
doesn't
people
sell.
do, but it doesn't sell as well. Actually, there was something around, you do get a serotonin hit from getting that fear injection, so it becomes addictive to get that fear hit. It does actually release some serotonin because you get this fear hit, and then you realise you're not a part of it completely.
Yeah.
Because it's like happening in another country or happening over there. It's never happening where you are
Yeah.
necessarily. If you're in a Western world, for whatever reason, that's what the media conveys, and so it sells more. It gets more eyeballs because it's all about advertising dollars. The whole thing is really advertising dollars, and advertising dollars drive everything.
Yeah.
And so we're monetizing people's attention. So wherever your eyeballs go, that's where they want to be, because then that's where they get your attention. So that's, whether it's driving down the highway and there's signs, you're at a stadium and there's signs and there's banners and there's ads. Even if you're watching it on TV, you're watching a game at, in Manchester, and then you got Etihad Airlines around the banner, and you got this and you got that, and then you got AIG on here, and then you got Chevrolet here. And so wherever your eyes go is where they want to be.
Yeah.
And so to get your eyeballs onto the news, how do we do that? We've got to give them something new, and we need to give them something fearful, because then it makes it interesting for them to watch and probably talk about, and then that's when we get our advertising dollars up.
It's like right now.
Does that make sense?
Every day, 100%. It's like they're talking about all these numbers from Victoria. It's just a number, whether it's up or down.
Yeah.
But the numbers are going quite high, I think.
Yeah.
Like 400 or something today, what it was.
Okay.
It's like, fuck. When they say 300, I go, oh, that's better. But 300 was still shocking when it was 150.
Yeah.
I went 150 to 300. It's like, oh, that's really bad. Then I went 400.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's now 300. It's
Yeah.
like this. Do we need that amount of information as a population?
I don't tune into that.
I tune in because it's like I get some stuff manufactured in Victoria.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the Victorian stuff, but I don't like news.
Yeah.
Because news is always unfulfilling. How do I feel after this? Like totally unsatisfied and discontent with the world, because I just think, here's a bunch of people who've all got degrees.
Yeah.
But you don't need a degree to tell me bad news.
Right.
You can just sit there and just read the script the guy gave you and say blah 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 blah, whatever the fuck it is. It's like the guys that go in the helicopter in Sydney or at any major city and they say, oh, the traffic's busy on this. I know that.
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking Monday.
It's 5 o'clock. It's
You don't need to be a
Monday.
fucking helicopter in the fucking sky
Yeah.
to
So
tell
if
me.
you're dictating the news, what are you talking about tonight?
Me?
Yeah. You're taking it tonight. 2020, July, to
I'll
Thursday
probably talk
night.
about stuff that's relevant to me. I'm talking about health and well-being, eating well, being with family,
Yeah.
loved ones, doing the right thing,
That's
exercise.
good. But then what are you going to say tomorrow night?
Yeah. Same again, more of it.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to be reminded to do the simple things in life, because those simple things go a long way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sometimes we forget. We have these great ambitions that are so far away, we never quite achieve them, but we forget these small measures
Yeah.
that have such a profound
Yeah.
impact on our life.
And you've probably been guilty of that
I've been doing
yourself,
them daily.
in terms of, I want bigger
100%.
goals with,
Oh, 100%.
with the business.
Here's my new analogy. This
Yeah.
was I discovered this last week. My wife told it me, and it was fucking, when she said it to me, it just kicked me in the balls. Because I'm always at building the business, build the business. And it was this Indian woman talking about this. She was repeating this story about the Indian life. She went, the Indian culture, but says we're very educatedly uneducated. We all want to be doctors and fucking surgeons, but we have no. We're losing what we have.
Yeah.
The people in the slums have what we had. They have a foundation of family.
Yeah.
They have the grandmother, the fucking aunties, everyone lives together, and they all share and pass on knowledge, and they all live together, spend a lot of time with each other.
Yeah.
But we are going away to study and to work really hard and give our kids to someone else to bring up our kids,
Yeah.
and the kids are growing up, and then we're going to do the same to them, and we're really losing the connection with what we have.
Yeah.
She went, she's now a psychologist, or fucking whatever it is over there. She goes, I'm trying to get people to go deep with what you have. If you think of a tree, she went, go deep.
Yeah.
Go deep with the roots.
Yeah.
Become really deep with what you have,
Yeah.
instead of spreading yourself.
Yeah.
Because the deeper you can go with the one thing you have, like your tree, and you go really deep with the fucking roots, you become so strong.
Yeah.
And that, to me, when she said that, I thought, that's how it should be. That is what I want. I want depth of family.
Yeah.
I want richness in my life. I want richness with my kids.
Yeah.
I want richness in my business. But it doesn't need to be in all these countries.
Yeah.
Because my mind is always, I need more. I'm never satisfied with what I have.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself I have a lot.
It's a strength
and
and
I'm
a
rich.
weakness.
Yeah.
It's a strength and a weakness.
Because the desire to push for more is what gets me moving.
That's what got you here.
To stand still, I find that quite. I have to find my satisfaction with that, and I struggle with that.
Yeah.
To stand still, But I do want to become rich with what I have. And if the global expansion happens,
Yeah.
then that's a byproduct,
Yeah.
and only a byproduct of
Yeah.
me becoming richer with what I have.
Yeah.
Because I always remember, like, in my 20s, I was like fucking egotistical, like, fuck you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to drive Maseratis, and anyone that fucking doubted me, I'm fucking going to. I said to Sally, when I get a big fucking house, I'm going to get. When you drive in the driveway, I'm going to be like fucking 2 big fingers like that. For all the doubters that drive it to see it.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I said, no, I'm going to turn them round. Because I don't mean that. Ego's making me say that.
Yeah.
And I'm not. Ego's there, but ego, if I channel it the right way, it becomes positive, and it's like, this is what I want to. I want to show peace and love and
Yeah.
respect and humanity for
Yeah.
everyone. Because when you take the stuff that drove me to get to this point, and unfortunately some of that wasn't always nice stuff, but it got me to this point
Yeah.
to be reflective
Yeah.
of where I came from and what I don't want to continue with my
Yeah.
moving forward with, because it didn't satisfy me. It doesn't make me happy.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily need that to move forward with your life or build your business or whatever the fuck you're going to do with it. It's more about this. It's about peace, love. And that might sound a bit of fucking hippie for anyone living in the city.
We're in Byron,
But
this
it
is the postcode.
It
Comes with the postcode, does it?
24, what's it? What
Comes with the awakening.
2481. It just
Yeah,
takes
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
When I moved up here, I felt like, you know when you get like a towel and you try and wring it out of water?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really fucking wound up, but you know there's still water in there?
Yeah.
I felt, me and Sally both felt when we came up here, it's like, that's how we were.
You were at that point.
We're fucking wrong like that.
You were.
Yeah. And that was normal.
Because you were where before, Sydney?
Sydney, yeah, in Surrey Hills. But we never realised that until we came up here.
Yeah.
We never realised that until we changed our perspectives. We never realised that until we changed our surroundings. We never realised that until we changed our lives.
Yeah.
Business still moved on, and over the year, this doesn't unwrap straight away. This takes a fucking long time because it took a long time to wind up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It slowly unwinds, and it's like, fuck, it's like, oh wow, it's like 24 hours in a day is a long time.
Yeah.
It is a long time,
Yeah.
but when you're in a city or when you're stuck and consumed with what you're doing, it's like, it's fast.
Yeah.
And I just hope it's fast.
Because everyone's going fast,
Yeah.
but no one knows what that they're actually,
they're achieving.
what they're going fast for.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this whole COVID thing's been a huge blessing, because people have actually gone introspectively in terms of what they're doing.
Yeah.
What do I want to do with my time?
The media keeps saying, oh, there's a lot of mental health issues going to come out of this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I think, is there? Or is there going to be a lot of mental awakenings? Are people actually going to not stand in line as you've made them stand for the last fucking 100 years? And that's the question.
Yeah.
What they're doing, where they're going, what they're going to do. And I know, like, we all like to be. I remember I spoke to a psychologist a long time ago, and he says we're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
And what we have become is human doings. We're always doing stuff.
Yeah.
Being is good. It's what we're meant to be.
Yeah.
But that's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard to stand still.
Especially with the phone these days, you're on all the
Fucking
time.
hell.
You know, once upon a time it would only be a doctor who would be on call. Now everyone's on call every minute.
I see people with these bloody watches.
Then you got the watch that's going to be beeping.
Have you got
on
one?
you.
No,
No way.
I'm never going to get one of them.
Nah.
I might get a cock ring, but I won't get a fucking watch.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. But
Dylan's behind the camera. He's already got one. He's 19. Freestyler.
well, that's where it goes. It'll go the phone, and then it'll go this, and then it will go some glasses that you know, whatever, and then it'll be a chip.
I mean, maybe it'll be a generation beyond me, but I don't think me personally. It's like I learned the phone.
For sure, because if you speak to your parents, do your parents have a mobile phone on you all the time? On them all the time?
No.
So it is a generational thing. So you grew up with the phones.
Yeah.
That's normal.
At 15, I got the phones came in at 15.
Sure, and then the next ones, and so it's each generation it gets closer.
Yeah.
You know, it's that evolution. So, which seems like it's a long way off, but it's not really.
No.
Within 100 years, you've got people putting chips in and everything happening and viewing things out of their eyeball. Who knows that's sort of.
100%. It'll be
very easily Singularity, which is the combining of technology and humanity, like what Elon Musk talks about with the Neuralink.
Yeah. I still think
not that far away.
pen and paper.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. I think there's something between body and mind and time.
Yeah.
Pen and paper.
Nice.
That is the most. That shouldn't be lost.
Yeah.
And I think too many people are losing it with the fast tapping and all that sort of stuff. But when you take a pen and a paper and you convey your thoughts or you write a story, you stop.
Yeah.
Because you cannot think faster than you can write.
Yeah.
You got to slow the fuck down.
True.
You got to do an S. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's not just the button. The fucking
Versus
thing.
autofill.
Yeah. So these things, it's just really slowing.
Yeah.
And I don't do it. I've got to practice what I fucking preach at the same time.
It's part
But
of
these
it.
are all the things that are within me. It's like, yeah, I really enjoy just writing. When was the last time someone wrote you a handwritten letter?
Yeah, exactly.
It's very pleasant.
Yeah.
Or like a nice letter that came through the post. It wasn't a fucking bill.
Like everything that goes around in circles, getting back to getting a letter, sending a letter, receiving a letter will be magical and
Or
maybe
pen
come
pal.
back in time. Yeah,
These pen pals, these little lives you had with these other people that were far, far away, you'd never ever
Yeah.
get to see.
exactly.
But you shared these stories, these moments. These are things that are fundamental that you still remember 40 years down the line.
Yeah.
For me, it's like when I had that pen pal 30 years down the line, it's still there. It's like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't really remember all the shit I fucking did like that.
No.
You know, it's all gone. Because like sent, or it's gone, sent. There's like no,
How many are
nothing.
you sending each week? Or
There's
each
too many.
day?
Yeah.
Business, I think I do in business, but it can be a form of good.
Yeah,
And it
business
is a
gives you-
form of activism.
If you believe in something,
Yeah.
I think the business that we do, I believe in what I do. So it's not work, it's not a challenge, it's not a chore.
Because look at what you're doing. You're in a
These
way
guys-
taking dollars away from Kellogg's or from Nutrigrain or whoever else, whatever other options are out there, which are terrible foods.
We haven't.
It's not even a food. It's just a product that people consume that is toxic for their body and definitely toxic for their children. Has been marketed that it's actually good, and we've been tricked. I was
Yeah.
tricked. I was having Nutrigrain every day.
But
No,
it's,
disaster.
it's unfortunate that Nutrigrain grabs all these fit, young, healthy men and women and say, if you want to be a fucking Iron Man, like the epitome of an Australian person, eat this shit. It's just shit.
And that Iron Man's not even eating it, but that
No.
Iron Man is saying, "Well, it's
It's money driven.
It's 10 grand for
Yeah.
3 posts or whatever the hell it
Timmy
is."
Cahill with his Weetabix.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure if somebody sat down with someone like Timmy Cahill and said, these are the outcomes of eating that shit, do you need this 100 grand or 200 grand? He'd probably say no. But he did it because maybe his kids, I don't know why people do these things.
Schwarzenegger promoted Coca-Cola.
Yep.
You know, so that happens. I met Timmy Cahill actually when we played Everton when I was playing soccer in the change rooms. Great guy, and super fit and healthy, and definitely does not consume those foods.
So people at Weetabix will say that whole angle was derived by marketing people.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Weetabix, and it wasn't Tim Cahill, it was marketing. It's about marketing can be the necessary evil or the good of a business. The angle is, how many do you eat? And then parents are sending their kids to school and trying to figure out why the teacher says, oh, your kid's got ADHD. No, the kid does not have ADHD. He just ate fucking 15 Weetabixes, a highly refined carbohydrate. His body is in full fucking toxoplasmosis. What the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
He's going nuts. And you're asking a 6-year-old child to sit. He's not going to sit. He wants to go and climb Everest.
Especially if it's algebra. What's the point? What do we need algebra for? Like, let's not
Well,
get into that. I mean, I don't even have children yet, so I don't know how to navigate the
You
school
know,
system.
you know
but
Pythagoras?
yeah,
You heard of Pythagoras?
yeah.
I get taught that as well. I didn't get taught it. They spoke about it. But in that year, straight to that one. And I've always laughed because I always said, no one ever asked me Pythagoras. No one ever fucking uses Pythagoras. My brother. He goes, I use it every day. He's an engineer. So he does use Pythagoras, so that was
Yeah.
purposeful.
Yeah, it's definitely purposeful for some people,
But not for me.
not for you. No, what was your
All the-
breakfast back in the day?
Porridge.
Porridge,
Salt and porridge.
salt and porridge.
Yeah. Oats, water, salt. Every day. We never really had cereals because my mother never believed them and they were expensive. Like cereals were expensive.
Yeah. They were like a dessert
Yeah.
breakfast.
Or like a fry-up, so if you were flush,
Yeah.
you get fried steak, fried sausage, square sausage, links like a normal sausage, fried bread, black pudding, dumpling, which is like
Yeah.
Christmas pudding,
Yeah.
an egg
Wow.
and bacon.
Wow.
That was the
The
fucking...
Scottish breakfast.
Oh my god. And you wouldn't eat again for the rest of the day, but that could be... That was only when she was flush.
Yeah.
We would have steak for breakfast.
Yeah.
Where's your question, Dylan? Come on, give Julian a
What's
question.
what's the weirdest thing you do every day that you don't like to tell everyone? And it's a little habit.
Would you know?
Huh?
Would you know?
No.
The weirdest thing.
Out of the ordinary.
Yeah, out of the ordinary.
You
What-
probably
what-
perceive as normal.
I think probably the Wim Hof technique, the Wim Hof breathing,
Mm.
is pretty, like if someone's watching from afar and seeing someone do this breathing, that's pretty obscure. It's becoming mainstream now.
It
People
is.
have heard about it, definitely for sure.
I'm working up to it.
That's probably one thing. Cold showers as well. Cold shower. So if
I remember.
if someone's in the kitchen, they might hear me screaming from time to time, especially in winter because it's cold.
I'm
but
3 months in
Yeah.
to my cold showers.
Awesome. How long are you going for?
Oh, not long, but straight in cold shower, nothing, maybe half a minute to a minute.
Yeah.
But Sally, my wife, her father's Chinese. They have cold shower every day.
And
Since-
how long
since-
have they been doing that for?
Her whole life.
Bravo. Bravo.
But she does the opposite. She goes like really hot to cold. I couldn't do that.
Okay, nice.
It's hard enough to do cold, but they've done it. I've known since we've been together 20 years. She's always had hot, cold
And what was
showers.
her philosophy on that?
My father did it.
And what was his philosophy?
His father did it. There's no real detail of it. Just
There's a lot of wisdom there.
Stuff
A
just
lot of
getting
wisdom
passed
in the
down.
ages that
That's
have been
what
lost
you do.
at times.
you have that cold shower. It's like, I know when I have a cold shower, and it's amazing. The cold shower, you start to feel hot. So the cold is just the byproduct of getting through that process to coming out feeling fucking totally awake,
Yeah.
alive,
Yeah.
tight. Makes me feel tight. My body's like tightened up, ready to go.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
finish hot shower at night, cold shower in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm going to see this guy from Lennox Head. I think you might have saw this guy, the guy
Jason.
had the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go and see him on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tell him we say hi.
Say hi.
You went to see him.
No, this Tuesday
Oh,
coming.
you're coming, yeah.
Got